All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Brain Club. I'm Mel Hauser. I use she, they pronouns. I'm the executive director of All Brains Belong. Welcome to Brain Club. Let me share screen, get us oriented to our conversation. This is our wrapping up our Brain Club Greatest Hits 2025. This week is actually 14 Brain Clubs in one, believe it or not. This is going to be a look back over so much of I mean, if I think about what is Brain Club, what is Brain Club? Brain Club is a transformation program. So really everything we talk about is transformation. And so tonight you'll hear community members' reflections on transformation of their self-narrative, of their experiences of healthcare, of workplaces, of how they show up in relationships. You'll hear about all kinds of relationships, from doctor-patient relationships to parenting relationships to, all kinds of things. And you'll hear stories of both individual and collective transformation. Before we begin, closed captions are enabled. You just have to toggle them on if you'd like to use them. Depending on your version of Zoom, you might see the live transcript closed captioning icon. If not, look for the more ... and choose show subtitles. You can also do the same and choose hide subtitles if you want to turn them off. Brain Club, of course, for anybody who's new today, Brain Club is our education program where we demonstrate All Brains Belong's approach to neuro-inclusive culture for purposes of shifting broader community awareness of the issues of concern and importance to our community, and where we promote new ways of thinking and being, and that with the idea is that you take these things forth into the rest of your lives, and that is how culture change happens. If you're new to All Brains Belong, we're supporting the health and belonging of people with all types of brains in lots of different ways, and Brain Club is one of them. So you are invited to be part of the collective All Brains Belong community, of which there are all these different programs that get at health and belonging in slightly different ways. And so, welcome to our community. Everyone's welcome at Brain Club. Brain Club's for neurodivergent people, people who support neurodivergent people, people who are exploring their neuro identity, and anyone with all types of brains who wants to learn about neuro-inclusive culture. This is a place where we provide education and information, and model new ways of being through guest panels and speakers and book chats to provide a better way of understanding our speakers' neurodivergent experiences. And through those stories, for many, this is a way to feel less alone. It's a place where we both provide systems level critique of barriers to access that make it difficult for people to get their needs met, and we bright spot alternatives, and as we will be doing tonight. This is not the right place for medical advice or individualized personal questions. It's also not a support group. It's for education purposes only. And we invite you to listen, to observe what a neuro-inclusive space looks like. I will I don't have Lizzie with me today. I will put some links in the chat once we get the video going to catch people up on frequently asked questions. There are multiple right ways to participate. You can have your video on or off, even if it's on. We don't expect anything of you. Feel free to walk or move or fidget or stim or eat or take breaks. After we watch our mosaic of community panels tonight, there will be time for discussion, and you can do so with mouth words or in the chat. Observation is always a valid form of participation at Brain Club or any of our programs. While we watch the collection of panels, you're welcome to use the chat as we go. Speaking of the chat, you're welcome to use it to ask questions or comment directly about the content of the panels. For example, sharing how what a panelist says impacts you, or validate other people's comments. We just ask that if you're going to use the chat, to please use the big box as opposed to the reply threads that make the chat bounce up and down and make it really hard to follow and make it really hard to respond to. So if you could use the big box, that would be really helpful. Thank you. If it's your first time at Brain Club, it's okay to take a little while to figure out the lay of the land. I will put some frequently asked questions in the chat once we get our panel going. But first, a couple of announcements. Thank you to our sponsors for today's Brain Club, Limelight Restoration Services and Encore Renewable Energy, both past award winners of our Neuro-Inclusive Employer Bright Spotting program. Both were recognized last year as Neuro-Inclusive Employers. So congratulations again, and thank you to Limelight and Encore. We are 8 days away from the end of our You're Not Alone campaign, through which we are spreading awareness of our mission as well as raising funds for supporting free public community programs such as Brain Club. I'm really excited to show you how close we are to meet our goal. As soon as we do, we will have unlocked a matching donation from a group of generous supporters. So if you would like to support the campaign and if you have capacity, oh, Lizzie's here. Hi, Lizzie. Thanks for putting those links in. That's great. So thank you. Thank you to, I mean, so many of you who are here in the audience have already participated in the campaign, and we are so grateful for your support. We are also excited that in 1 week from tomorrow is our fourth annual virtual New Year's Eve community solidarity event, where we will have live music and a community brain club and all kinds of activities for all ages, as well as a raffle drawing with lots of cool prizes. You don't need to be present to win, so definitely love for you to participate in the raffle, even if you can't make it to the event. But we hope to see many of you there. There is no regular Brain Club next Tuesday, but you will get some Brain Club at New Year's Eve the next day. All right, here we go. As you know, we've been building through our themes of the year, and here we are at transformation. So, the pre-assembled collection of panels will run about 20 minutes, and then we'll have some time for discussion. So transformation, what we mean by that is it can be subtle and profound shifts, both individually and collectively. And so tonight we're honoring where we've been, noticing what we've learned throughout the year, and making space for who we're becoming individually and collectively. And so we're going to be taking a look at all these brain clubs, and for including, back beyond 2025, as early as 2023. So it'll be interesting to revisit some of these comments from our panelists and see how maybe we've evolved over time since we heard them the first time. As you are watching, here are some optional prompts to reflect on as we watch the video. Maybe what narratives have we let go of, or rewritten, or reclaimed? What feels different to us now in December of 2025 as compared to some time in the past? And you'll have a chance to share both as we go and afterwards. So thank you to our many panelists from these 14 brain clubs: Weaver Goldsmith, Simone Arnold, Lizzie Peratt, Sierra Miller, Olivia Tyler, Dr. Winnie Luby, Amy Noyes, Summer Stelter, Gwen Hart, Charlie Hone, Nadine Budbill, Liz Carney, Rai Wepiloki, Monique Francis, Liz Schlegel, Connie Beal, Matthew Lafleur, Sheila Linton, Jeff Smith, Emily Grenier, Bruno Schweiner. And this is I want to just point out that all of our panelists have very different relationships within the All Brains Belong Village. Some are patients, some are community program participants, some have gone through neurodiversity trainings. And so it's really a look at how coming together to look at some of the themes around neuro-inclusion, what is the impact of that? I'm going to watch. I have to click the button to make the sound differently. We are actually going to watch this.
Neurodivergent is that we're often feeling like we're not part of anything.
I'm not really a part of, I'm too much this to be that. I'm too this to be that. And I'm too that to be this. And I fit in between all these different realms that have all these very hard junctions instead of wavy overlapping spaces.
we are not able to embrace and acknowledge like all parts of our identity, it creates so much shame and guilt and inaccessibility to things. And it's just exhausting. And it's already exhausting enough to be autistic, ADHD in this world, that adding the exhaustion of shame is unnecessary.
It creeps up on you. It's like something happens and your like automatic response connects to these like core beliefs.
I always felt broken and misunderstood in many aspects of my life. Normally trying to describe to people how I felt turned into me pointing a finger and being too sensitive. I didn't have the correct language. I had to teach myself comprehension in high school and later on in life, up to today, to understand others and to try to fit in and blend in.
Research says that the opposite of belonging is fitting in, because you are changing yourself to fit the norms of the already established group.
And what I realize now is I spent my whole life trying to fit in to belong. But when I'm fitting in, I don't get to be myself. I get to be like the version of the outside world, and how much anxiety that has cost me, and how exhausted I am.
And that we're not included, or that these models aren't for us. And that can be devastatingly isolating. And I think most people in the community have had some experience of that. And we can change that for ourselves and for each other.
The biggest, most important things for me has been coming to see both my child's brain and my brain through a strengths-based lens, like, like really focusing on the amazing strengths and benefits of having a neurodivergent brain, and utilizing those and building those and honoring those and celebrating those, rather than focusing on what's wrong.
So do you talk about access needs, sensory needs, et cetera? Like, do you talk about that explicitly with your kids?
I try to. I'm still learning how to do that.
Yeah.
But yes, I do. I talk about, well, if they want the lights on, maybe we'll turn them on, but usually they're fine with it, and sound like, I just try to find the right way to say, if it's okay to be loud, because sometimes I'm loud too. I can't really regulate my voice volume, but it needs to be like more farther apart for me. Sure. It's hurting me. Because it actually hurts, if you're screaming. And I'm not talking like screaming in fear or pain or something. I'm just like, kids just like to scream.
Yeah. Right. Sure. Right. I mean, you're teaching them about conflicting access needs. I think if all humans understood conflicting access needs, we would have a lot less chaos in the world.
We're all in this together as individuals that, that sees things differently, hears things differently, moves things differently.
To be in a community where I get to explore and learn about my brain and other people and other people's brains.
Extremely socially isolated. My world is a 4-block radius, pretty much. And so I'd like to say that I think one thing that's been really important to me is I'm not tired after Brain Club. I'm actually revived. Like, it's refreshing because it's easy to be there. So to find something that is engaging and fun and interesting, but doesn't exhaust me, doesn't tire me, period. Like, not at all. It gives me spoons, if anything, and forks and some knives and a ladle.
For the root, it's helped us to understand ourselves more as a staff and really be able to grow and be like, oh, kind of some aha moments, some kind of, oh yeah, that makes sense moments. Some of those like, oh, we could be doing better moments. But it also is not just internal for us as staff, of course, those tools then that we are able to apply for ourselves and give ourselves those gifts, we're able to extend that out to our participants and to our community as a whole.
Everybody, right, is crinkled in different ways. And just that this is just how humans are. try to be a workplace where there's room for everybody's wrinkles and making room for all this belonging. Like people are what make a workplace, people are what make a company, right? Or what make an organization. Like there isn't anything else, like just all the other stuff is just tools. And it's humans who use tools. There's going to be times when folks are like, oh yeah, this part of the job, like I can't wrap my mind around it. We're all going to work with you to help you like figure it out. But that is our shared like commitment, right? To make a place where people belong.
Places in these communities that we're part of, and we go in and out of them. And then there's this like global community that we have, that we all kind of manage and navigate. But within each of these hubs or these communities we're part of, there are great assets.
Watching that level of innovation, of radical hospitality for all people, that is one of the ways that I see All Brains Belong transforming communities and transforming systems.
We think a lot about like the empowerment piece and the narrative shifting piece. It's the idea of when you recognize that you're not broken and you're not alone, that shift is what makes everything else possible.
I mean, I think it's at the very basic root of humanity and being able to be ourselves and ask for help. I think it gets to the very basic principle of I know when I've felt inadequate or not enough, that I find it harder to ask for help. I feel I have to, I'm ashamed. I feel this like sense of I'm a burden.
Very different the experience of transforming a community is when there is a way around or out of scarcity, like solidarity economics. In other words, how do we meet our needs outside of a traditional transactional system?
Heard from people that they were reluctant to participate in something like this because they didn't think they had anything to offer. And I think what we saw, if you're getting messages that your value comes from what you produce, you don't know what else there is. And so the idea of showing up, seeing what people need and saying, oh, that's actually a thing I know about, or that's actually something I'm happy to like sit by your side as you fill out that paper. Or this is like truly, this is actually like something I'm really good at. Recognizing that their gifts are valued by other people, especially having received the messages that like, oh, your little hobby or your this or that, is just like not important or not significant because it doesn't earn money or whatever. It's just like, no, actually, this is quite helpful to your community. You are valued and appreciated just by being in the community.
We feel like that being a good community steward allows good things to come to you, problems in the community to present themselves from your partners, and it then gives you the opportunity to kind of react.
Ideas and energy and drive comes from the people up rather than this top down where it's being dictated to you what you should be doing or not doing or how you should be doing it. And the co-creation piece, I think, is part of that. If I think about, I always think about like, say, public services like food stamps or Section 8 or Social Security or those kind of things. Like those systems would work so much better if they actually paid attention to how people are using it and the barriers that they're facing with it, right? If they were actually acting on the things that aren't working, it would be so much easier.
I want to know, I want real-time feedback on what I'm doing so that I can make little tinkers and adjustments. I wonder if in like a big system, you just realize that you couldn't even make changes. So why bother asking feedback? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think about the importance of having folks with lived experience in those positions that can make change at that level. Because of, otherwise you're kind of talking to the wall. Like you'll have a few people who kind of get it and they're sympathetic. But if you have people in positions of power who can actually lead the way and model that this is a different way to do it, I think that's the way to have the change, really. So like having you're working with people about employment, I think that's a really powerful model for sure, because then those people can model for other people, right? That they can see that it can be done.
Model came from the idea of like, we're going to bring a whole bunch of people together. They're going to be interdisciplinary professionals, and people who lived experience and people who had both. And this is what we're going to do. And that, yeah, we, built the ATT guide, but we developed a model of healthcare out of that.
As a company, we have done a lot of internal work. Like I think every time Mel talks, we all really take a good look inside ourselves, and people are being a little more open about being neurodivergent. Like a bunch of people are ADDers. There's folks on the spectrum, and it's been a lot easier to like kind of communicate about what we need to communicate with each other. Like someone might need a Teams message just to let them know they got an email. What do you need?
That we're trying to do now is sort of, again, more about creating space for there to be a couple of right ways to be able to do the thing, but still have us existing within a common framework. We're trying to really ensure that there is, that there's enough allowance for people who maybe, get their burst of energy. Some of us don't work in steady state flows, right? Some of us have these bursts, and when the bursts come, like that's when we do our best work. And so just sort of recognizing that there's a lot of different ways that we all work, and grounding us all in some common language and common ideas, but it's about having the flexibility within that framework.
Do you have any advice for organizational leaders who don't have the culture yet in place that allows these downstream successes that North Country is having?
Yeah, I would just encourage them to be vulnerable, and to be vulnerable and bold, to be willing to have internal conversations with leaders and their boards to say, what do we want to, where do we see ourselves? I think people get stuck and they don't know what to do. So what's that one thing that you can do? What's that one step forward that you can take as an individual within your organization, within your board, that can be that next good step? And if you take that one step, create that one collision, a bigger collision can happen and really good things can occur.
Small moments where you can actually, you never know how you're changing somebody's life just by talking about something,
Right. Because I think that it's at least for me, sometimes I don't have language to understand my experience until I've heard someone else name it. And I'm like, oh, I would never have come up with those words, but that is the exact thing that goes on in my head. Wow. Whether I hear it or I read it or something. What does a co-created public-facing community education program look like? Like, I've never been to one of those. I don't know. And so that was what this was about. And based on the feedback that we got from the community, these are the steps that we took.
I also think that I really appreciated the emphasis for new people coming in, that there's this like, we want you here, you're really welcome. And this space might be a space that's not a similar space, and looks like what normative culture would look like. And so we're asking you to really come and observe what the culture is we're trying to create, and that it's okay just to observe and to watch for a few times, question or something. Like, we want you here, and we're trying to preserve this culture that we're trying to create.
We are so proud of the model of co-creating programs with the people we're serving. And we're just so into that, and it's like really important to us, right? And then there's this balance between some centralization and some structure, and some, balancing the organization's needs with the needs of the people, and it constantly shifting. And I think it's that hierarchy of ethics, hierarchy of needs, internal conflicting access needs of a system and your people and your patients. And how do you then factor in boundaries and burnout prevention or burnout reduction or wellness promotion, or all these things about being a human in this sphere. I have always and maybe this is just my PDA, but I've always
just found most systems unsafe. Like they just like you just like just even as a little kid being like, this makes no sense. This is arbitrary. This is not, this is not open to feedback. I remember even being like a middle schooler being like, why don't you ask the students? Why, anyway, it just always felt like, not that systems are like really, maybe I could say this. Most systems are really designed to perpetuate systems. They're not really like, so it has always felt intuitive to me that starting over and starting something new, that wasn't part of a system, would be more effective, at least faster, at least faster to get some sort of impact to happen. And maybe it's just my brain that delayed gratification is really hard for me. I want the thing now. I want it right now.
I don't know if social justice is the right word, but I think the more people can be themselves in those situations, the more effective they're going to be, the more authentic it feels to interact with them when they're being their whole selves and they're not holding back something because they don't think these other folks will want to hear it, but they can actually speak their minds a little, like kind of feeling pressure to clamp down some pieces of ourselves, right?
Totally. And think about how much like cognitive effort is required to like clamp down and suppress like all that. Well, it's funny you say that. Maybe you know the story. I don't know if you know the story. The story of how Kid Connections got founded. Do you know that story?
So.
Oh my gosh, it's the best. Okay, so a then 8-year-old on the junior advisory board. We were like in a backyard, and I said, we've been really thinking about how do we help kids feel like they belong? Give me thoughts about that. And this sweet little love, he says, you let us do what we love. What do you mean? Well, if I'm doing what I love and that kid's doing what they love, like we're gonna feel like we belong.
Nice.
So that was Kid Connections. Like that, I mean, that is system change from the ground up. This is like a sweet little love with a sweet little idea that changes the world.
My life has very much changed since finding ABB. I was told a long time ago that all true healing happens in community. It doesn't happen in an individual. I feel like this model really sees people and takes out the pathology and just how can we.
Brain Club is a culture shift project.
It sure is.
This year I learned that it's a beautiful thing to be able to talk about our brains and share our experiences and build a better world.
That sometimes when everything's really hard and it feels impossible to start things, you just need to rest. And if you don't feel better after resting, sometimes you just need to keep resting.
Something that I learned about my brain this year is that I like predictable systems with some sort of novelty or special interest thrown in. That way it doesn't get too boring.
In 2024, I have had the honor and privilege of being part of this community that we're building together, full of incredible people with incredible brains. I saw how when we're in unsafe or unsupported conditions, the alarm bells from our nervous system and our immune system just let us know, sound the alarm that something's not right. But I also witnessed the transformation that happens when people shift their stories from there's something wrong with me to the system is thwarting me, the system is thwarting my access needs, this environment's not good for me. And I also saw and experienced genuine healing beyond anything I was trained in medical school to understand. Healing made possible by being surrounded by a community on this collective journey where everything really is connected to everything. So thank you again to all of our panelists. It was an honor to look back at the wisdom that you've shared through the years. I'd love to open this up, either out loud or in the chat. What has stood out to you or what's coming up for you about your own transformation or the transformation that you've observed. Hi, Sierra.
Okay. One thing I really liked tonight was the idea of how just little things can cue safety and little things can really make people feel comfortable. And in a world where lots of things feel too big to do anything about, knowing that just like talking about your brain can change stuff for somebody else and cue safety. I really like that theme tonight.
Thank you for naming that. I mean, there's so much of that. Like, as you were speaking, my brain connected that to something that Sarah Knutson shared in Brain Club in October 2022. That is how my brain works, by the way. Of like the little details of showing up in the waiting room and like the things all around and the book and like all these things that end up being like someone's individual story ends up being like can be so much more for the collective just by noticing and paying attention to something. What's standing out to others? I mean, maybe one other thing I should name is that maybe you don't notice any shifts yet, and that's okay too. I think that sometimes when we're in a life chapter of like being really deep in burnout and feeling really stuck, sometimes it can even feel painful to be around other people who are like celebrating their transformation all the time. So also just like want to like that is so valid. And so just to acknowledge that wherever anyone is on their journey, that's where you are, and to honor that and make space for that. And maybe that's a shift. Hi, Sarah. I just talked about you and you showed up. Hello.
Really appreciate you remembering things that I don't even remember saying 3 years ago, but that's so thoughtful. But I just wanted to, I love what you just said there, though. I mean, that just really sparked something in me, because I think for me, some of the most important shifts in my life have come when I stopped trying to be somewhere that I wasn't, and actually owned exactly where I was and let myself actually sink even more into where I was. And then all of a sudden realized, oh my God, this is a this is a place that's really important to be, and really beautiful and really valid in and of itself. And I would not have appreciated it because I was so darn focused on being somewhere that somebody else told me I had to be. And so I just think that trying that, oh my God, the trying to keep up with the Joneses and the shifts thing is not is not always where it's at. It's like, just, I mean, if I can just be with my own shift, there's a lot to be said for that.
Absolutely keeping up with the Joneses of shifting. I love that expression. Yeah, no, totally. It's just like, and this is why, like we did a month in whatever month that was, October or November, about radical acceptance. Like, this is where I am. Hi, Anne.
Hey there. I'm just so, my thought is I'm pretty new to this community, and I just can't imagine, like, it makes me like almost tear up, like in a year, what I'll be thinking. Like, I don't know, like I'm already thinking so much. And I think one of the things I came from my kid, and I'm starting to wonder about my own brain. And I'm thinking that I'm somewhere on this whole thing. I don't know how to explain it, but I think, I'm old. I mean, I'm like, getting close to 60, and I think my brain's been on overdrive for a long time. And through watching my kids struggle and then trying to understand their brain, I'm starting to really wonder a little bit about mine and how I've coped for so long. And yeah, so it's just pretty interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting journey. So thank you.
Absolutely. And you are, I was going to say, what Sierra just said in the chat, you are in good company. That is how many of us started to discover our brains. I think like some people come in the pathway of, something happens in life and burnout gets so intense, and like that's the pathway to self-discovery. Some people, they learn about their medical conditions, and then they learn that those medical conditions are more common for neurodivergent people, and they come to learn about their brain that way. But like a whole lot of people, in the process of coming to understand their child's brain of all ages, people of all ages, start wondering about their own brains. And you're absolutely right, like, and we're in February, I think it's February, we're going to do a whole month on masking. I think that, the subconscious, involuntary, automatic suppressing of parts of who we are, it's a survival strategy, and it is one of the things that, we don't even know we're doing it. So we don't know our true selves. And it's the process of coming into alignment and discovering those parts of who we are that we've shut down for so long. Thanks for sharing, Anne. Susan says, I've learned to be more out and authentic. It's okay to ask for help and to help others. It doesn't need to be shameful. Yeah, Susan, thanks for modeling that. I think that it's like coming to understand your access needs, coming to ask for what you need when it is safe, when the environment is safe, and when it's not, like what places, where do we have the autonomy or agency to opt out of places and people who are unsafe? And sometimes we don't always have that. And to acknowledge that, like to acknowledge all of the permutations and combinations of that. Steve says, I want to celebrate the fact that we're all standing here after all the crap we've been through. That is a triumph. And we still thrive, even if it doesn't look exactly the expected way. Well said. Well said. Irene says, thank you for acknowledging stuckness, still hearing others are doing this, keeping up, completing their work, or quote, we can't do this just for you. Right. So, I mean, that's the ableism. Like, systemic ableism runs deep, and it's like a shift sometimes, even like this might sound really subtle, because like the events and the traumas don't stop, but the narrative or the interpretation of them may shift and may make a really big difference for someone, so that when someone thwarts you and shuts you down and doesn't allow you to access and fully and meaningful participate, the fact that you can name that that's what's happening and that it's not you and that you're not broken, like, and that takes time. But when that shift happens, even if the events themselves didn't change, that narrative change, I think, matters to a lot of people. Olivia says, and continue to learn something new every day. The more we unfurl, the more we learn, the more space we have to be curious. Oh, I love that. Linnea says, I really appreciate Sarah and Mel are describing. Accepting where I am feels like a recurring invitation. Oh, that's beautiful. Sarah says, I think I'm taught by my life over and over again that growth is not linear. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, right. And like growth, healing, like all of it, even for people who do experience like a pretty profound narrative shift, like you're still going to have days where you feel terrible. You're going to still feel days where internalized ableism rears its head and, oh, there it is again. I didn't know you were still there so deep and intense, but like, that's the journey. And like being able to name that to other people, I think can be really, I was going to say helpful, but like that's an understatement. Just like I think what I would also say is that it's an honor to bear witness to everything that everyone has shared and to be part of your journey and the journey that we are on together. Transformative. That is a great word, Sierra. That is the word that I meant. Thank you. Interdependence. And so with that, thank you so much for being here, everyone, being part of this conversation. We hope to see you on New Year's Eve. So no Brain Club on Tuesday. I don't have the exact link. I'm gonna put the main Brain Club link in the chat, where I'll put New Year's Eve in the chat. And then for Lizzie, you read my mind. That's what I was gonna look for. That's the link to January Brain Club, where we will be a whole month spent on the nervous system. And so, thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, everybody, and we hope to see you next Wednesday at Community Brain Club at New Year's Eve. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.